Okay, now a bit of visualisation required here. It's the week before Christmas, the 18th of December, and you're in the cinema to see the new Star Wars movie. You've got your popcorn, you've switched off your mobile phone, the adverts are on, you've just seen one selling lager, and then this one comes on.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thine will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day
our daily bread.
Forgive us our trespasses,
as we forgive those
who sin against us.
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
and power and glory
forever and ever.
That's it, and you're left with a strapline that says Just Pray, which is a Church of England website is trying to promote. Except that is now not going to happen because the advert has been withdrawn from cinemas by the company which sells the advertising in case it causes offence. Did they do the right thing? What do you think? Would it bother you? Well, let's bring in Gordon MacRae, who's the Chief Executive of the Humanist Society in Scotland. Hi, Gordon.
Good morning.
It is Christmas, after all. You know.
It is, yes.
So,
and
it's
I
not...
I don't think the advert itself is particularly offensive. I think the main thing here is that cinema chains appear to be more in touch with their customers than the churches. We have a long-standing policy in these cinemas that they don't have political and religious advertising. That's their right. It's a private space. It's a commercial operation. I don't think we should take a leap from there to say that religion is being put to the sidelines. We still have a Scotland where members of the House of Lords are there because they're members of the church. People on local education committees are there because they're church ministers. Religion retains a special privilege in Scottish society. And I think we're in danger of losing sight of some of the real issues.
So it's just that the cinema is not the correct or appropriate environment for it?
Well, personally, I've got no problem with the churches having an advert at that point. I would personally seek it out. If they think it's going to persuade more people to come to them, then fine. But equally, the cinemas as a commercial business have the right to decide what they do and do not put in their marketplace.
So would you support their decision then, Gordon?
Yes, I think it's. I don't think we should tell private companies what they can and cannot have in their own cinemas. If you were taking the decision on their behalf, what would you do? Personally, I would let it run because the try praying and these new initiatives that the churches are doing to try and get religion into other areas of the public sphere demonstrably aren't connecting with the public. Nearly 1 in 2 people in Scotland say they have no religious affiliation. Scotland is no longer a majority Christian country. And we're seeing more and more people choosing an ethical, compassionate, rational lifestyle. Yeah, well, everyone's got choice, Gordon, but what we're talking about today is whether or not this advert that we've just played should be run within cinemas, whether the Church of England should be able, like any other organisation, to pay their money and say, look, here's our advert, will you put it out? Well, the Church of England are like every other religious and political organisation. They're not able to run cinema adverts. And that's been the case for a long time. Well, I mean, there does seem to be some dubiety over that in terms of what the actual regulation over that is concerned. But anyway, DCM Cinema Media says that it has a policy of not accepting political or religious advertising content for its use in cinemas. Some advertisements, unintentionally or otherwise, would cause offence to those of differing political persuasions, as well as to those of differing faith and indeed of no faith. David Robertson, moderator of the Free Church of Scotland.
Because it's just sheer hypocrisy, because we're told it's a commercial decision, yet a baker in Northern Ireland decides not to put on their cake message supporting same-sex marriage, and they're taken to court and fined. And I suspect that Gordon wouldn't say, well, it's just a commercial decision, the baker can do what they want. So I think it's the sheer hypocrisy, it's the attempt to exclude religion, including Christianity. And it's just the gross intolerance and immaturity. I mean, there's loads of adverts. I go to the cinema pretty well every week, and there's adverts come on, you go, oh, for goodness sake. But, you know, mature people just go, well, it's an advert. I don't have to accept it. I can disagree with it and so on. And this one is so mild and inoffensive. It shows you how bad things have got when the Church of England manages to cause offence. I mean, for me, I just find that stunning.
Gordon, it's an interesting comparison that David draws with that case in Northern Ireland that were probably...
No, it's an entirely false comparison, actually. And that's to do with the provision of services to members of the public. And this is a question as to who can buy advertising space. That's an entirely different scenario. And
why?
To be clear, it was a refusal of a service that someone would provide other people on the basis of their sexuality, religion, belief.
No, absolutely not. Sorry, no, you can't get away with that. That was not the case. They did not refuse to serve them because they were homosexual. They refused to put the message on the cake that they wanted, which was in effect an advert for same-sex marriage. Now, your standard is just complete hypocrisy.
Well, that's the court's standard. It's not mine.
Well, Gordon, I don't know if you would call yourself a militant secularist, but do you think that there should be... if not a complete exclusion, but more exclusion of religion from the public space?
Well, I think if that's the debate we want to have...
Why not? We've got an hour. 0500 92 95 00.
The reality is that religion is specifically, and in particular the Church of Scotland, is specifically legislated for in Scotland. So there are special privileges afforded the churches in Scotland that aren't afforded any other belief group. Church has members of the education committees and local authorities. We have.
Sorry, that is other beliefs as well. You should know. You should know your.
No, well, actually, not entirely true. There are 2 seats for other faiths.
Yes.
There is 1 seat in particular specifically for the Church of Scotland alone.
Yes, and you know the reason for that because the Church of Scotland gave over its schools to the state on that condition. And
200 years ago, yeah.
The Catholics have that as well. So no, you just don't get away with that. I mean, and you said earlier about the House of Lords in Scotland and so on. And again, there is nobody from Scotland who's in the House of Lords because they're a member of a church. Nobody.
The House of Lords still covers Scotland.
Actually, just before we go back to, we've got Willie in Inverness and other calls coming through, but Gordon MacRae from the Humanist Society in Scotland. We have spoken, I mean, it has been publicly voiced by various political leaders this week that, prayers should go out to the people of Paris. I think there's 132 people killed is the latest kind of, the latest figure that we have. It is very much part of our culture in times of such stress and distress. So why don't we just accept it, Gordon?
Well, I think everyone will express their common humanity in different ways. For people of religious faith, that'll be prayer. For secularists, that may be in a gesture of solidarity or compassion.
But would you have a problem with politicians saying we're praying for the people of Paris?
I don't have a problem with anyone expressing their religious or moral beliefs in a way that's personal to them. I think the issue is more around what is the role of the state in privileging a particular single faith, and are we saying that just by virtue of where a child is born, that will dictate what they will be instructed in a particular faith? That, to me, I would say...
Yeah, but Gordon, going back to this advert, it's the Church of England, and nobody's saying it's not the Church of England. They've paid for the service to advertise, just like any of our major manufacturers, food and alcohol manufacturers would. You're having a choice. Like, I can decide whether or not I want to eat Maltesers or I'm going to have a Galaxy bar. They put their adverts out there and I make my decision. Similarly with this particular advert, I watch it, I decide whether I buy it or not, not in the literal sense, and then I move on. What's the difference?
Well, there's none. I mean, as I said, if I were the person making the decision, I would have let it run because, arguably, it may prove counterproductive in the long term, as we see, that a lot of people nowadays would rather live their life free from religion and do that in a way that fulfills them. This is a commercial decision by a business which has taken a view that it's not in their interest for this advert to run. That's their choice. I don't think we should be trying to interfere in that choice as long as it's within the law. The issue really is what is the best way of having a discussion and dialogue around religion and belief in public life. I don't think cinema advertising is the forum for that, but nor would I want to see people banned in arbitrary ways.
Are you happy with carol services and church services on the telly around Christmas time?
Well, actually, it's an interesting example of where religion is specially legislated for. That's part of the BBC Charter. They're required to provide a certain amount of time for Christian broadcasting. I personally would rather see the Charter not require that specific exception, and that the BBC as a public service broadcaster be a space for all religions and beliefs to come together and express and discuss the issues of ethics and morality together. So I would quite happily see the next BBC Charter not have that special privilege for Christian faith, but I do think there should be space for religion and non-religious beliefs to discuss and debate the ethical and moral issues of the day.
Right, so Christmas coverage would look very differently then?
Yes, it would be a choice for the broadcasters as to whether they thought there was an audience for it, and if they did, then they would broadcast it.